Hey guys, Jam here. And in today's video, I'm going to turn these dudes into arguably the winners of 40k, the word bearers. I mean, the whole 40k setting kind of exists because of them, so I feel like they deserve a little kitbash video on my channel. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Now, I want these guys to be on a fancy base. I'm going to start with that first, so then I can glue them down before painting. Now, obviously, if you're not interested in the basing part of this at all, then I'll leave a little timestamp so you can skip that. But I wanted them to look like they were on either a spaceship, you know, they're just getting ready, kind of falling to the chaosy word bearer things, or it could just be some sort of industrial, imperial world kind of vibe. So I'm going to go for like steel plating and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm going to have to throw in some candles and skulls because, you know, it's word bearers. So first up is my trusty diamond plate plastic card. Absolutely love this stuff. And I just start cutting out the shapes I want on the base. So some bases I'll do a full diamond plate kind of thing, some I'll do half, but we'll come to that in a second. And for that more just plain steel metal kind of vibe, I'm just using plain plastic card here, just the normal smooth stuff. Then for any bases where I wanted a step or something like that, I just used your old basing classic, and that's cork. And later I'll just stick like the metal plating and stuff on top of it. But another thing I also started using was plastic card rods. Now these look like little tunnels and piping and stuff like that, depending on the size you want to use. So I'm going to use various sizes throughout the different bases I'm going to use here. And what I normally do once I've got the plastic card trimmed down and stuff like that, I'll go between my file and my hobby knife, just kind of smooth the edges out so it's a bit more flush with the rim of the base. Now, as you can see here, I've got the 6 bases done. Got a nice mix between the diamond plate, the plain steel, a bit of piping in there, and the places with nothing, I'll just fill with some like sand and dirt later because that might be some debris from the battlefield and stuff like that. And then lastly, before we move away from the basing part of this video, I just glued down some resin kind of 3D printed candles and some skulls from the Citadel skull kit. Probably a little bit over the top, but I wanted to go for that a little bit more grim dark vibe with these guys. So yeah, super quick and easy bases. Like I said, just diamond plate, plastic card, plain plastic card, some plastic card rods, glue them in different ways using cork to kind of make steps and stuff like that, and you got pretty fancy bases there, like I said, and they're very, very quick, cheap and easy to do. Now, I'm no expert on Kill Team. I have no idea really how to play the new edition and stuff like that. So I don't know if this team composition is any good, if I've chosen good weapons. Not really sure. But for my kind of champion guy, the guy with the power fist and the plasma pistol, I wanted to give him a fancier head. And luckily I've got the Chaos Chosen from Age of Sigmar, an absolutely phenomenal kit by the way. And I grabbed one of the heads from there because I felt like the head options that came with the kit didn't really fit the word bearers kind of vibe. You know, word bearers are very much into demonic possession and like ultra undivided chaos kind of vibe. So I wanted a head to kind of represent that for this guy. You know, they got loads of spikes poking out and the scars and all that kind of stuff. Just make him look a bit more chaotic. So yeah, just chose a head out of that kit and glued it on. But that's pretty much the only head swap or kit bashy thing I really did with this model. The main thing I really wanted to try out was making purity seals and long bits of parchment with aluminium foil, and in this case 36 gauge aluminium foil. I think in the future I might even try a thicker gauge if that's something I can buy, but this stuff worked out pretty well, and the reason why I'm trying it is because usually if I'm doing purity seals or parchment I just use green stuff. But the great thing about using this metal foil is you can really bend it and shape it a lot easier, and it'll keep those nice ripples and folds throughout. So it was a lot of fun to use, quite difficult, so let's get into how I went about it. Now for the size of the parchment and stuff, it kind of varies depending on what you want to do with it. But generally I think I was going for about a 2mm width on this. So yeah, I just started cutting out like 2mm strips. So some of them I went really, really long on my more like magic-y priest guy. So you had loads of long flowing bits on him, and then obviously like the more purity seal looking ones I just did like little short little nubbies and stuff like that. So it really depends. There's even one model where I did a massive, like really wide parchment thing that's kind of flowing off his back while he's running. We'll see this all in a minute, but I'm just saying the size and thickness really just depends on what you're trying to do with it. And as you can see on this guy right here, you kind of get what I mean when I said you can bend loads of folds and ripples into it. So I super glued the top of these long parchment-y bits to the kind of torso neck area of this guy, and then I just got my tweezers out and just slowly started adding in little folds and ripples and stuff like that as I went down the parchment, and it turned out quite nice. It's very, very simple to do. Something you can't really do with green stuff as easily. But one downside to the metal compared to green stuff is this stuff is obviously very bendy. So if you're not careful, you can really bend it out of place. So if I was you, if you're going to do this, make sure you have quite a few different contact points for your glue, so you make it quite firm in the place you want it to be. Now, it's not the end of the world. I've got a few that's kind of just dangling out in the air. And while I was painting, I did kind of move a few, bend a few the wrong way, but all you do is just bend it back again. It's not a massive issue. And yeah, I wasn't joking when I said I wanted to go a bit overboard with these parchments and stuff like that. But as you can see with this guy, got a load on him. He's kind of my priesty dude of this team, and yeah, I'm really happy with how this foil stuff works and looks in the end. It's definitely something I'm going to add into my repertoire of kit bashing now. And here's a quick look at the guy with like the giant parchment at the back like I was talking about before. But with that all said and done, nothing beats a bit of green stuff. So I'm going to start making little ropey bits to create kind of attachment points to all the skulls that I've glued onto these models. I've just glued skulls dangling off their belts and stuff like that, but I needed some string kind of holding it onto the model. So yeah, just rolled that really, really thin, ropey, sausagey kind of things. And I tend to tuck them into the eyeballs of the skull, so it kind of looks like it's hooked in there. And then I just move it onto the belts and stuff like that. It's a very quick and easy step, but it definitely helps the realism of the model, so you don't just have skulls kind of floating there. And then while I had my green stuff out, I wanted to create a kind of rolled up bit of scripture or parchment, whatever it is he's got there. So I rolled my green stuff really, really flat. I cut it into a square or rectangle, whatever works. And then I just started using my finger to roll it up just to make this kind of bit of parchment. And once it was rolled up, it looked a bit too thick and stubby for me. So what I did was I got my toothpick, I placed it in the center of the thing, and I just started rolling it side to side. So it's creating an indentation in the middle, where later I'll have a bit of like a belt strap going over holding the parchment to the model. But it also just kind of helps thin it out to make it a bit longer as well. This sort of technique would work really, really well if you want to do bed rolls, maybe for your Astra Militarum or something like that, especially for the new Krieg stuff that just got released. Yeah, it could work really, really well for stuff like that. Even Gene Stealer cults, actually. And then, like I said before, I cut out a little bit of green stuff to stick over there, a little like belt strap kind of loop to hold that bit of parchment on there. Nothing too fancy, just pop it on and then you are pretty much done. Now I say pretty much because I'm going to come back in now with my hobby knife, and I'm just going to start pressing little indentations onto the side of this parchment just to make it look like it's really rugged, kind of torn up bit of paper. Now the last thing I'm going to do with green stuff is creating melted wax around all these resin candles, because to me it just didn't look right just having a candle sitting there with no melted wax around the miniatures. So once again I roll out long sausagey rope things, and using my silicone color shapers, or you can use a wet toothpick, I slowly just started wrapping this around the base of the candles. And once it's wrapped around, I just start kind of pushing it into little nooks and crannies and just kind of like shaping it and trying to make it look a little bit more natural. Now for the more extended kind of longer drippy bits down the armor and on the base and stuff like that, I just again roll out a little bit of ropey bits of green stuff, put it on there and just kind of use my color shaper to, well, shape the green stuff so it looks like drippy wax, I guess. Now some of these candles are probably way too big, and to be honest I don't have any more. These were the last ones I had lying around. I really need to buy some new ones, preferably smaller ones as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the kit bashing side of all this done. Like I said, I mostly just wanted to go for that kind of parchment-y vibe and stuff like that. But now I'm going to go over to painting. So let's get into that quick, because I did try something a bit more different on this one. So as you can see here, for the main base color of this model, I'm using corn red. And the model is primed black, and it has to be black for this particular technique I'm going to go for. I don't know if it's really a technique or just a really rough, quick way to get things done. But, well, again, I say that. I thought it would be a really quick way to do it, but it's not. So, generally the kind of thing I'm trying to go for here is I'm going to be doing kind of stipply layers. So I'm not doing like nice smooth layers up to the edges. I'm going to stipple in my base colors, but I'm going to leave a gap between like the metal trim and stuff like that, so you've got that built-in shadow, so you don't have to use any washes or anything like that. And it's also going to create this weathered look to the model. And the great thing with just coloring in the panels that we want, instead of like just dousing the whole model, airbrushing it, is metallics paint way better over black. So all the silvers and golds and stuff like that will go really nicely over this black primer. So my next step with the red part of the armor is Evil Sun Scarlet. Now I'm going to use the same kind of stipply technique, but I'm going to focus a heavy amount of stipples towards the top of the model, and then slowly kind of thinning out the stipples towards about halfway down, like say the shoulder pad or something like that. So kind of creating this, like say, weathered, volumetric look with our lights shining from above and there's darker shadows at the bottom of the model kind of thing. Now, like I said, this probably took me a lot longer than I thought it would, so I don't know how worth it really is if you wanted to do an entire army, but for this little team it was a really fun exercise. And then for the final highlight for the armor, I went for Wild Rider Red. And the same process as the previous color, but I just do it in a much smaller, more focused like surface area of the model. So if we're focusing on the shoulder pad, I'm going to do quite a lot of stipples right at the top of the shoulder pad, and then just kind of fanning the dots out and, like, you know, dispersing them a bit, so it kind of creates this transition. You go from the really, really light Wild Rider Red and slowly transitions into the Evil Sun Scarlet and then into the Corn Red and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, it creates that volumetric but also kind of blends the colors, so there's a bit of a transition. And yeah, again, don't know if I do a whole army like this, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Now as for the rest of the model, I'm not going to really go over much because it's just your standard bones, browns, silvers and golds, all that kind of stuff, nothing fancy. So let's just cut straight into a showcase. And there we have it, ladies and gents, in all their word-bearery glory. You know, just cruising around the galaxy, bringing the truth of chaos to the Imperium citizens? Imperium citizens? I don't know. Citizens of the Imperium, I guess. I should probably read a few more Warhammer books, I guess. But as always, if you even made it this far in the video, please let me know what you think of these dudes. Do they look like word bearers to you? I know I didn't really do that much different to them. And as a kill team, how's their loadout? Are they going to perform well on the table? I have really no idea. But if you liked the video, you know what to do. You know, hit the subscribe button, like, and definitely share the video as well. If you know anybody that's into chaos or word bearers, it really helps out the channel. Now, if you want to help out the channel even further, we do also have a membership and a Patreon and all that kind of good stuff where there's early access and, you know, the usual cool things that come with that. But that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.